Welcome back, college baseball fans, specifically Duke fans. We've got our final episode of Talkin' Ball with Chad Knight. He's a viral sensation right now. Last couple of days. Chad, how are you doing? I know the loss must be tough, but it's been a bit of a whirlwind for you over the last couple of days.
Yeah, I really felt every emotion on the spectrum, happiness, sadness, being upset, and then kind of just being shocked with really how viral, I guess, that last tweet I put out was. But anytime the season comes to an end, it's always super sad. The worst part is just saying goodbye. When you play 60 games and have a fall season and go to school with these kids for, a year or 4 years, me being here for 5 of them. I mean, it's super emotional, just saying goodbye, closing the chapter to a season and what was really just so special and played such a large part in our careers and our lives.
Yeah, and I knew I wanted to give you some time because I felt a little emotional. And that's just from covering the team. So I couldn't even imagine where you were at. So I was like, I'll let him come to me and let me know when we do this to give you some time to process.
Yeah, I mean, when that last out, I told you this before, but when I saw that last out be caught, I generally consider myself a pretty stoic person. Don't really like to show my enthusiasm or my anger too much. Usually compartmentalize it, but whatever, I had compartmentalized about baseball coming to an end, the season coming to an end, the floodgate just came and I was bawling my eyes out. I went back and saw that I was, crying on the broadcast. And I wasn't even embarrassed about it in the slightest. I was actually laughing and saying, I wonder if that's going to become a meme, like the Jordan meme. But
I might have to go back and do that now.
Well, you got my blessing, so go ahead. But like I said, I was bawling in my teammates' shoulders, bawling, and the first person that put their arm around me was Harrison Rogers. I just gave him a big hug and just told him I loved him. And then my parents weren't at the game, but when I gave my dad a call and I heard him crying on the phone, and I was crying too. That was just the hardest I've ever cried in my life. Just having flashbacks to playing catch with him in the backyard. Anyone that's ever played the game, you know how much it means to all of us, and the relationship with you might have with your family members or with your friends or your teammates or coaches. They're just so special. So definitely a lot to be sad about, a lot to be proud of too. So
yeah, absolutely. And we're going to get into a lot of reflection on your career. It'll probably be somewhat of an emotional episode, but we'll get there. But first, we're going to have to talk about some of the baseball that happened over the weekend. Obviously, the offense was never really able to get going, but there were some great moments. Jimmy Evans' home run against Oral Roberts, and then Chase Cruson and AJ Garcia, like flashing the leather. The defense in that final game, unfortunately, didn't go y'all's way, but was really, really good. But what kind of, how was the team feeling? Obviously devastated, but it was a tough environment. But I think a lot of people expected you guys to win, and ultimately, unfortunately, you fell short.
Yeah, it makes last year's regional win so much special. I think so much more special. Sorry about that. I think losing always gives you perspective about how special it is to win and why, winning merits celebrating and celebrating appropriately. Because it's tough. You go and play, a really, really talented UConn team, and then a really talented Oklahoma team. And then Oral Roberts was in the College World Series last year, so they're a veteran team as well. Winning a regional is tough, and, it didn't go our way. We played, we did everything that we could. And yeah, there were some really special moments. I think the cool thing about postseason baseball, whether that be at the amateur level or at the professional level, is it gives opportunities for maybe non-starters or your non all-stars to really make a name for themselves. Jimmy Evans coming off the bench and hitting a home run or getting his first start of the year. A guy that had just been so patient was able to kind of just demonstrate his talent on a really, really big stage. It was incredible, super happy for him and glad that he's going to be able to come back and still contend next year to go to Omaha. And then, like you mentioned, AJ, having, hitting the home run, robbing a home run, kind of gave me flashbacks to RJ doing it.
Yeah, unbelievable.
The talent was definitely on display. Just that's baseball. You can't win them all. I really wish I could say that, you could. But I'll stand corrected when a team goes undefeated, I guess.
Yeah, and I couldn't believe somebody ran on Chase again when he'd already had the 2 outfield assists in the ACC tournament, and then they did it to him again, and I was like, oh my gosh, because as soon as they went, I knew they were in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the pop fly go left field, and I was up on the I was in the dugout going, "Please run, please run, please try and tag up," and then we got out of the inning. So
Yeah, yeah. So there were a lot of great moments. It's just unfortunate. I was telling you before, a lot of the guys that really I thought made this team special, and I had a blast covering. Unfortunately, are going to be moving on to pro baseball, or in your case, the real world, as I guess the
yeah,
we people say. um, it's kind of a surreal time because it feels like it was just too short of a season to cover some of these guys like Zach, Ben. Uh, I you know how much fun I had just watching Chuck in the dugout, pacing around with his energy, and the good news is those guys have a future in pro ball. I'm gonna miss Logan Bravo's walk up song. I don't normally pay attention to walk up songs, but his is so different that I would every time. And it was funny because during the ACC tournament, we would actually start singing along because we were a little bit soundproofed in there, and it was a pretty funny environment. But I'm gonna miss that. They're I've never had so much fun covering a team, so I can't imagine how you must have been feeling. But UConn ends up winning the regional. What can you tell us about UConn and what they've got since they get to face Florida State, who you're also very familiar with?
yeah. I mean, they're a really, really well coached team. Jim Penders has been there for a while now, and he's brought, I think, you know, this is his third team bringing to a supers in the last 10 to 12 years. I remember when I think they lost to South Carolina when George Springer was there. When South Carolina ended up going and winning the College World Series. Um, but no, they're a really talented team. I've actually played with a couple of those kids before, so I wish them congratulations and good luck. Being from Connecticut, I always rooted for the Huskies in basketball and other sports growing up. So, well, it hurts to lose. I'm happy for them and wishing them all the best. Um, and they're a gritty team. Like anything can happen in baseball if you play fundamentally sound. If your pitchers throw strikes and your hitters don't get themselves out, anything can happen. And they deserve to win that game where we played them, and they deserve to win the regional. They played really, really solid baseball. They're definitely gonna have a tough task against Florida State. I mean, I thought Florida State had one of the best offenses I've seen in a while. Having James Tibbs, Cam Smith, Marco Dinges, Jaime Ferrer, the list goes on and on. So definitely playing in Tallahassee, I'm sure that's gonna be challenging, but I'm excited for them. They should have an incredible experience at that regional, and I'm excited for college baseball fans. I mean, that's definitely a regional I'm gonna be paying attention to.
When you were looking at schools to go to, was UConn on the list at all? Because I know you talked about
Definitely.
growing up a Husky fan.
Yeah, it was the first school I ever took a visit with, actually, and I had the opportunity to talk to. I was being recruited as a pitcher back then, but their pitching coach, Coach McDonald, and Coach Penders, and they're really, really terrific people. And I know that, I didn't end up going there, but I know that everyone I've ever talked to that had played UConn baseball has had a wonderful experience. So my old high school team had actually played at UConn. Ben Kasparius, I think he's in AAA with the Dodgers now, but they have a great program up there, and they got a lot to show for it. That's why they're in a super regional.
Oh yeah, and their pitching looks really, really good. I think I was telling somebody, I think if it goes to a third game, it's going to be really interesting. I think momentum shifts to UConn if it goes to a third game with the pitching staff and what some of the injuries Florida State has. I mean, we saw what happened to them a little bit on Sunday of the ACC tournament against you guys. They were a bit gassed there. So, but beyond Dorsey and Arnold, which they could potentially have a go to, it's going to be interesting. Sorry.
No worries. I wish I had it.
Yeah, they're barking at each other. So, but yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And we'll talk a little bit about super regionals in a bit. But were there any other games that caught your eye? I know you guys were pretty busy, and I wouldn't imagine you'd want to watch baseball after what happened on Sunday. But were there any other regionals that you that caught your eye and performances?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Greenville regional with Evansville winning. I mean, everyone loves an underdog story. It's so cool. I don't think anyone in the country picked, them to, I guess, triumph over Wake Forest and, East Carolina, two, powerhouses in college baseball this year. What a cool story. I know they're going to go play Tennessee. That's going to be a great experience. I played in the Tennessee regional 3 years ago. We lost also in 3 games. So kind of like what we did this year after we won the ACC championship, but really, really cool atmosphere. And I mean, I think everyone in the world, unless you live in Knoxville, is going to be rooting for Evansville just to root for that underdog. So that was obviously a fun one. We're watching the South Carolina NC State game, or JMU South Carolina game where South Carolina came back and Cole Messina hit that home run. Obviously, that was a great game too. I mean, there was so much good regional baseball to watch. I mean, I think I mentioned this to you in a podcast before, but one of my favorite things and one of my favorite things about college baseball is just, after practice or after a game, you get back to a hotel or your dorm room and you turn on, ESPN Plus and you go watch the slate of college baseball games and you look at the guys that you played against and you look at the guys that you're going to play, and it's a lot of fun. That's something I'm going to miss a lot. But again, excited to watch the Supers in the College World Series because I'm a baseball fan.
Yeah, and apparently viewership was up across the board, which is great news. That LSU UNC game on Monday night was electric. I don't know if I've ever heard the Bosch like that. I don't know if you saw any clips from that game, but it was pretty electric for I know they normally have big crowds, but they were loud. I was really impressed with several of the ACC crowds this weekend because I don't want to say wine and cheese crowd, but sometimes that's how the crowds are, and they were rabid this weekend, which is great for postseason baseball and the atmosphere.
Definitely. I mean, if I had time, I wish I could have teleported and been in multiple places at once. I would have loved to have been in all those.
That's how I felt. But let's talk a little bit about the season Duke had, because it was, like I said, it was my favorite teams to cover, and I'm going to miss covering that particular team a lot. We had from the get-go, you had some great highlights. Obviously the tournament opening weekend against Coastal and George Mason and Indiana, just launching bombs when nobody expected the offense to be quite that good. Even Coach Pollard, to his own admission, was like, I knew they'd be fine, but I didn't know they'd be this good. And then, the ACC opener against Wake Forest, there were some great moments throughout the season. Do you have a favorite? Obviously, the ACC championship probably has to be up there, but let's take that dog pile moment out.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely am a believer that the journey is the prize. But if I had to pick a couple moments on that journey, I think when Coach Pollard got thrown out of the game against Wake Forest, and then
that's right,
we ended up winning that game. That was definitely really, really special. We took the series over the number one ranked Wake Forest at the time. That was a really, really cool moment. I think it demonstrated how much everyone on our team really loves him. I know we've talked about that before, but when you have a coach where you have your entire 40-man roster ready to run through a brick wall for him, and you're playing not only for the name on the front and the name on the back, but also for the love that you have for your leaders. I mean, that's what makes a team really, really special. Other couple moments that stand out. I mean, I think that second game where I think we broke the Duke record and they hit 9 home runs in a game. That was really, really cool to see. I think
against George Mason,
opening series is super, super fun. And then honestly, just like the comebacks that we've had on the road trips, like the comeback against Virginia Tech was super, super special too. Being able to win on Friday night when Ben hits that game-tying home run, his first game back from a broken hand, was super, super cool to see.
And he'd had several errors that game too, right?
I think that was a later game, but he still finished a good weekend.
And you personally, I mean, you had a big hit in the Virginia series. It was funny because I think Jack DeLongchamp, I'm trying to hope I said his name right.
That's right.
I've met him. He's great. But he had been talking, I think, before you even came up to bat about you coining the phrase "stay on black," and then it was perfect, like script written, because you ended up pinch hitting after he's told this story.
I don't know if they can see that, but we got those made right there.
There it is, stay on black. And I just thought it was perfectly scripted. And then you have the big hit that ultimately makes the difference in that game. The other really cool moment.
I got picked off first base there too, which was really funny. In retrospect, it's very funny. It was not funny in the moment. I was terrified. I was like, I'm an idiot. And my teammates were laughing. I don't know if Coach Pollard liked it, but in retrospect, we won the game. I think it's hysterical.
Yeah, you might find it funny now, probably not at the time, but
yeah, definitely not.
I did completely forget about that because I was so like, just like, oh man, they brought somebody off the bench and you came up clutch. And then of course, I mean, hitting the single, your last at bat as a Duke Blue Devil is a single up the middle in the ACC championship. That's got to be pretty.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I almost completely forgot about that one before you brought that up. But no, that was so cool, and it was really cool to have my parents there too, and to have that moment, to hit a ball back up the middle. I mean, I feel like that was kind of my curtain call of the year. but no, that was super special. Glad you were there for that. Glad my parents were there for that, and glad I got to experience that. And then the next inning we went and dogpiled. I mean, I wish I could go relive that day 100 days. 100 days.
Yeah, it was great to be to that whole experience, because I'm sitting there, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be down here either way. Florida State wins just to cover it, but like it's gonna be so much more special for the connections that I've made with some of these guys, and seeing Chuck get to do that at the end, being the guy to get the final out too. I mean, that's nobody more deserving after all the innings he's thrown. I mean, probably demanded those innings, but
I mean,
yeah.
Some teams would be very, very lucky to draft him in a couple weeks, and I mean, I can't wait to watch him pitch in the major leagues one day. That's all I have to say.
Oh yeah, yep, I'm excited. The future of Duke baseball still pretty bright. I mean, you've got a couple of freshmen who have been fantastic all year with KJ and AJ. I just realized it was KJ and AJ, because normally Kyle Johnson and AJ, they've been fantastic, and then Macon Winslow, who towards the end of the year, he did start the final game because in case there was a doubleheader, I guess you don't want Alex Stone to be in that position for 2 games, but he also had really great moments throughout the year and played some left field. So the future is pretty bright. You still got a bunch of sophomore pitchers as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys coming back. There's a lot of really, really talented kids, and I'm sure they're going to have a really talented freshman class coming in too. So, I mean, I'm upset that I wasn't there to be a part of the team that broke the door down to Omaha, but I can't wait to be a fan rooting for them in the stands. And I really hope that those kids get to experience, Omaha and being a part of that first team that really breaks that door down. But there's a lot to be excited about for this program. There's new facilities coming in the incoming years. I think they're bringing the fences in at Coombs, so it's going to be hopefully become a hitter's park, which is exciting, I think, for everyone. I mean, I was joking with Coach. I was like, Coach, I couldn't have been 5 years younger and come here. Maybe I would have hit a couple more home runs. So I don't know. I think there's a lot to be excited about for the program, for college baseball. I'm excited for all those guys. They got a lot of really, fun moments and memories ahead of them.
Yeah, and I want you to remember that even if you're not on the team that breaks the door down, the guys that came before and progressed the program, and we're going to talk about all the stuff that you've accomplished over your career in a little bit. I mean, you're not just a fan, you're still kind of part of that, even though you don't necessarily won't feel that way.
100%. I mean, I think, I don't know if I remember if I said this on a previous podcast, but the basketball team loves to use the term the brotherhood. I don't know if they've trademarked it, but I think that's really just like a statement that transcends across all Duke sports, but especially in the baseball program. I mean, I've probably had 80 or 90 teammates that I've gotten to know and play with in my 5 years here, and there's not a single guy that, that I didn't like. And I feel like they're all my brothers, they're all my family, and I'm just grateful to have the opportunity to get to know them. Seriously, I mean, it's been such an absolute privilege, and for any college baseball player, that I'm sure they feel the same way, but for any Duke baseball player especially, I mean, to call them family and to be a part of the family, it's been such a privilege and it's such an opportunity.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit before the show, that Chad is a team guy. Like even as the star in Little League, the star guy, and now it's always been about the team and how much you enjoy being around the people. I think the guy in the Little League interview even tried to set you up to talk specifically about like the big hits or whatever going back to school. And you were like, no, it's hanging out with the boys.
Oh, always. I mean, I've had some teammates over the years that have said it better than me, but we always all agree. I mean, the 5th years would talk about it this year just because we had, 4 years of experience kind of under our belts, but maybe you remember the home runs, but most of the time you don't remember the big outs, the wins, the losses, the 0 for 4s, the 4 for 4s. What you remember is just hanging out in the relationships. I think it's kind of true with what, like, the famous Maya Angelou quote is. It's like people will forget what you said, people forget, what you did, but people will always remember how you made them feel.
Yep.
And I mean, I think that's, that couldn't be more true when you're a part of a team and when you're, throughout a college baseball season.
Absolutely. And again, you were kind of on the fence about coming back, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had a job, and I was lucky enough where my employer was very generous and willing to let me come back and experience this 5th year, and that Coach Pollard was willing to have me back too. When I was crying into his shoulder, I just told him thank you. Thank you for being like a father to me. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Like the past 5 years have just been an opportunity of a lifetime. So there's a lot to celebrate, a lot to be proud of, but just there was a lot of tears that were well merited.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I just brought it up on the ticker when I got to ask him about that. It must have been a no brainer for him to let you come back because he was super grateful. He said I'm super grateful for the opportunity to talk about what Chad Knights meant to this team and meant to this season. His leadership has been unbelievable. And then he went in to tell the story about how you coined the phrase "stay on black," which I guess he wasn't supposed to tell the true story, but he did. Aaron was like, whatever. It's not the same thing as it's gambling versus sports. It's not sports betting, so it's okay.
Well, he didn't say that I went to a casino.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Hypothetically, if I were to go to a casino,
that's true. That's true. But yeah, it was. But it was a fantastic anecdote and how important you were as a glue guy, not just with some of these clutch pinch hits that you had, but that you were really important for the culture. And it sounds, I mean, just looking at some of your TikToks, you can see how much your teammates enjoy you, even when you're asking them random questions or stuff like that. So
thank you, Monty. That means a lot to me. And I mean, I'm not going to take credit for that, in the slightest, because I feel like I've learned so much about, what it means to be a good teammate and what it means to be a leader just from other teammates I've had in the past. There's been so many people that I've really looked up to over the years, and I feel like I've learned a lot from them and so much about myself just from having the opportunity to be their teammate. So, all those teammates I had, all the people that I looked up to that were, so kind and so, willing to kind of take me under their belt. The only thing I ever tell freshmen or younger players on the team is that one day you're going to be that older guy, and there's going to be that freshman that's struggling or missing home or homesick or needs to be introduced to college baseball, and all you're going to do is you're going to put your arm around them and do the exact same thing and just pay it forward.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's what makes a great teammate. So we are going to reflect on your career a little bit, but first we do have to talk about the super regionals. And you this wasn't the super viral tweet, but you did tweet about a parlay involving all the ACC schools making it to the College World Series in Omaha. But I'm going to just bring up the super regional matchups here. And kind of talk through them as I'm sure you've taken a little bit of time to try and figure out where you might go with your picks.
Yeah. I mean, I could tell you which ones off the bat I'm on the fence with. I don't know. I feel like NC State, Georgia is a coin flip. I feel like Clemson, Florida is a coin flip. And I feel like Kentucky, Oregon State is just a coin flip. The rest, I mean, I feel like I have a pretty good idea about. The thing that gets me in trouble is like when I see West Virginia or Oregon State, the first thing that comes to my mind is J.J. Weatherholt and Travis Pizzana. But then you have to be careful. It's like, okay, it's not like basketball where you have LeBron James or Nikola Jokic where one player can just carry a team. Like those guys get 4 at-bats a game, right? Or if you're a pitcher, you only get to pitch one game. So it really takes a team. I mean, I know Kentucky's been amazing all year. They got really, really good pitching staff, and I know they got a really, really complete team. Same thing with Georgia. Like you see Georgia, and the first thing you think about is Charlie Condon, right? But he could always get pitched around. So it's gonna be tough. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I saw something that said that an article that headline said, and I don't know if it was D1 or not, but somebody was like, just intentionally walk Condon every time, regardless of like the situation. And I was like, that might not be the worst. At first, I was like, that's crazy. And I'm like, this is an MLB. It's a little less crazy.
There's been worse advice.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I've had some issues because I like the matchups for all 5 ACC teams. However, I can't see all 5 getting through. So it's just hard to see which one falters. And plus, sometimes when you feel confident about one, it's not a logical time of year.
Yeah. I mean, it's 3 games. The sample size is so small, anything can happen. It's like flipping a coin 3 times. You get 3 heads, 3 tails, or it can go either way.
Exactly. But I mean, we can start with some of the ones you do know with Tennessee and Evansville. Who do you think's gonna take it there? It's in Knoxville.
Yeah. I mean, it's being a 3-game series. I got to take Tennessee, just the depth, I wish Evansville all the best. I will root for them 100%.
Oh yeah. I think America is going to root for them, but ultimately I agree with you. The issue Tennessee's going to run into is everyone's going to bring up if they lose a game to Evansville is that number 1 team's curse, and then they got to fight against that. So hopefully they, if they need to take care of business, they take care of business quick. But That's always. I'm
Florida
sure
State. Florida State. I mean, I'm going to be rooting for UConn just being from Connecticut and obviously knowing a couple of the kids on the team. I'm definitely pulling for them. But again, I mean, I thought Florida State was one of the better teams we played all year. I mean, I don't know how I can't pick Florida State, to be honest with you. You know, I'd really love to see UConn win. I mean, if they play the way they did in this regional, they're going to give them a run for their money. But I mean, that Florida State team is just so talented up and down the lineup.
Oh yeah, and Tibbs. I mean, they kind of coasted through their regional, and Tibbs didn't even have a hit over that weekend. So that's you've got to expect him to go off at one point. He can win a game by himself. Jamie Arnold can win a game by himself. It's going to be a big, tall task for UConn. They're capable, but it's just hard to bet against that Florida State team. Virginia and Kansas State, you got two of the best shortstops in the country going head to head with Griff O'Farrell and Kalen Culpepper.
Yeah, Culpepper was like a walking highlight reel in the regionals. I remember I saw he hit for the cycle, hit all these home runs. I mean, we lost to Virginia last year. I don't know really if I can ethically root for Virginia ever. But, I mean, they were also a really complete team. I guess I would take Virginia there too. But Kansas State's been hot, so I mean, hopefully the three teams I'm rooting for all win. That'd be wonderful. I mean, I don't really care if I lose my sports bets as long as they win. So
it sounds like you've got an emotional hedge, which sounds great. You might end up losing your bets, but you'll emotionally feel pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in a separation of church and state. So
there you go. West Virginia, North Carolina, in Chapel Hill, J.J. Weatherholt, Vance Honeycutt. Again, a lot of the big stars on the offensive side have made it, even if some of the best pitchers in the country haven't. It's going to be exciting. West Virginia's scrappy, and with J.J. Weatherholt back, they seem to be a little bit better than they had been all season.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit easier for me to root for Carolina after what they did for Devin Obie's home run to get confirmed when they were going like this in the outfield. So that was really cool with them. I mean, they're playing at home, and again, like, look, they beat us 2 out of 3, and I mean, they're a dang talented team too. Kind of like Florida State, where their lineup's really, really good, especially at the top. So I'll probably take Carolina. I don't really know too much about West Virginia besides J.J. Weatherholt. I mean, I'm sure he's going to have an unbelievable weekend, and I'd love to see him play well. So, but I'll probably take Carolina, Virginia, Florida State, and Tennessee on the left side.
Yep, I like that. This is where the right side here is where it gets a little bit more complicated for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the story of Kentucky finally breaking the door down is kind of going to happen eventually. It's not a matter of if but when. They've been getting better every year, and I think the last time they were ranked, they were like 2nd or 3rd in the country. Oregon State, though, I mean, I forgot their 4-hitter's name. Turley, I think his name is. Is it Gavin Turley? No.
It's definitely, if he's still there.
Yeah, I saw him hit a bunch of home runs in the regional.
Oh, then that is, for some reason I thought that was he had left after last year, but yeah, Gavin Turley would be the name of the guy if he's still there.
Yep, Gavin Turley, and then Travis Pisano, who might go 1-1 this year. So, but oh god, I mean, you can really flip a coin. I'll take Oregon State. I was, right before I hopped on the podcast, I left the TV on, and YouTube somehow figured out how to put on the Arkansas versus Oregon game where Arkansas dropped the ball in the game 2 of the College World Series in 2018. So maybe that's the world giving me a signal to say Oregon State.
There you go. Yeah, I think I went Kentucky in my picks, but again, I wasn't sure where to go. I think I ultimately was just like, it's going to be an ACC SEC College World Series.
Yep.
But
NC State, Georgia. I mean, again, I don't know that much about Georgia. I mean, I know they have Charlie Condon, but like you said, if you just pitch around Condon, I mean, there's been worse advice before. I thought NC State was a pretty complete team when we played them. Obviously, they got Jacob Kozart, who's a phenomenal backstop, and then Makarevich is an incredible hitter. I forget the name of their bullpen arm who throws 98.
Jacob Duden,
who's a freshman that throws 98.
Yep.
Kind of like Max Meyerish, who went 2nd overall back in 2020. I'm going to take NC State. I'm going to go with the pack. I mean, any remaining players that got snubbed of an opportunity to play Vanderbilt to get to the College World Series finals, I know they're going to be hungry to get back.
Oh yeah, and I really like, how they've handled their adversity with all the injuries they've had with guys going down, and they just keep plugging away is pretty great. And it sounds like it's a pretty even matchup. So I think I went Georgia just so I didn't have all 5 teams, but I'm obviously rooting for the ACC guys.
Definitely. Clemson, Florida, another like kind of a toss-up, kind of similar to the Kentucky-Oregon State series where Florida obviously headlined with Jack Caglione just being one of the most, outlaw, one of the most prominent college baseball players and being such an outlier as a pitcher and a hitter.
I think he hit 119 off the bat over the weekend.
I know, I saw that. Yeah, incredible. I guess he's the equivalent over there, Bazana, right? And then thing about Clemson, though, is like they're also a really complete team. They took 2 out of 3 from us, which is hard to do. And I know they got a great coach in Coach Bakich, who's been to the College World Series with Michigan before when they lost to Vanderbilt in 2019. And look, I know they lost in the Supers last year to an SEC team. So I don't know does that happen back-to-back years? I mean, I'll take Clemson. I'm going to go to the ACC here, and I'm going to take Clemson.
Love it. I'm going with Clemson too. I cannot. I refuse to believe in Florida's pitching. All the games I saw them, they struggled a bit, but obviously they've done something right to get here as they pitch their way out of the losers bracket in Stillwater. And then lastly, Oregon, Texas A&M. I don't know much about both these teams, but I know A&M's got Jay Slaviolette and Braden Montgomery, and that was enough for me to pick them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm going to go another route, but I'm going to pick them too because similar to Duke, they're kind of like the Ivy League South. I mean, they got Hayden Schott and they got Jackson Apple, Ben Miller's old, teammate from Penn, and I think Wyatt Hensler's. Oh boy, am I supposed to say that? I think he's scheduled to go there.
Oh, he's committed. He's committed. You're good.
Yeah, he's committed there.
Yeah, you're good.
I got nervous there for a second, but I know he's planning on going there. And I mean, I'll always root for the Ivy League guys. Those have always been my favorite, teammates I've had at Duke, or some of them, or most of them, whatever. I love all my teammates, but the Ivy League. I'm not saying there's been an Ivy League guy that I don't like. No, it's not what I was saying at all. But yeah, I'll root for Texas A&M in this one.
I like that. Yeah, so it sounds like we've got all 5 ACC teams for you going on, 3 SEC teams.
Yeah, I guess I'm sticking with what I tweeted out.
Oh wait, no, you went Oregon State. So
Oregon State over Kentucky.
Yep. So you have 2 SEC, 1 Pac-12, and then 5 ACC. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be rooting for a lot of them. I'll be rooting for Evansville, UConn, Kansas State. I mean, I guess I'm rooting for Carolina just because they were helping us out with Devin's home run. I think that was one of the coolest things ever.
That was such a funny story. When he brought that up in the press conference, we're like, what could we have possibly missed that you're going to tell us about? And we're like, okay, that's pretty good.
And then on the right side of the bracket, I mean, I'm pretty indifferent, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't really have allegiance to any of those teams. So just looking for some good baseball.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm hoping the ACC can do it because I'm tired of hearing all the SEC people, always tooting that horn. And I thought the ACC has been as good as it's ever been this year. And I want that to be kind of proven emphatically. So awesome. Now we get to talk about the fun stuff, Chad. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything as I go forward. Before we were going to get into that, I almost forgot. The transfer portal season has started. And we're not talking about anything specific, but I'm just curious how the transfer portal works. I think one of the questions I had, does a coach know it's coming? Does a player go to the coach and say, hey, I'm transferring? Or does the coach sometimes just get blindsided by somebody entering their name in the portal and doing the paperwork?
I mean, the reality is it's probably all 3. I mean, I haven't really ever been in the room as a coach or a player saying that I'm going to transfer or that a player telling me that he's going to transfer. But, I mean, I imagine it's all 3. I mean, sometimes coaches get blindsided and players kind of like keep it under the radar. Other times are a little bit more vocal, though I don't know really why you would be, because if you tell the coaches you can transfer, like, I don't know what's going to do your playing time during the season.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, I think the process for it, I haven't done it myself, so I'm not the best person to ask.
Yeah, I knew that coming in, but I was hoping maybe you picked up.
Portal open twice a year, I think. Once in June and July, and then second in December. And I think you just go on and you can enter your name into the portal. I don't know if it's on a website. I don't know if you call the compliance department at your school and they do it for you. But then coaches reach out and it's a free agent frenzy. It's like electing free agency. The difference is every single player is on a 1-year deal nowadays. So there's opportunities to go and see what type of NIL deals you can get. If that's something you're looking for, if you just need a change of scenery, that's something you can do too. I mean, I know there's a lot of controversy, and you hear a lot of coaches. I remember hearing Nick Saban talk about how he hears how the only thing that players care about now is how much they're going to get paid, and how it's kind of ruining some of college sports. But I think from the players aspect, the important thing is it's the players' experience, right? Yeah, the top 1% of college athletes, may transfer for the money, and that's what gets publicized. But I think the lion's share, the part of the iceberg that's emerged is that there are a lot of college athletes where at 16, 17, 18 years old, when you commit to a school, you know, I think it's unfair to ask a kid that has never been to college to pick the right place to go to school. It's tough. I mean, sometimes you go to school and it works out, and that's great. I'm really glad that happened to me in my case. But there's a lot of times where you might go to a school and it's just not the right fit. And I think it's a wonderful thing that you know kids and players have the opportunity to go and find the new home if they don't like it. I think that's a wonderful thing that doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize specific with baseball and football. Football, you've got 70 scholarships. A lot of the NIL money in baseball may be going towards tuition in some cases
Yeah,
because you've only got 11.7 scholarships amongst 35 plus players, right?
exactly. And college is cheap nowadays, as everyone knows. So
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people don't, because somebody was bringing that up. Is NIL still a big deal? I was like, actually, I mean, a lot of times it helps pay for tuition. Like
yeah,
it's
I mean,
you know,
like I said, the top 1% of college athletes that are probably going to be professional athletes at some point in their life, like that get publicized. Yeah, like I'm sure a lot of it is trying to go and maximize your brand value and see how much you can get paid. If I was in that shoes, yeah, I'd probably do the same thing. I think, like, why would you not go and elect free agency, and see what you can get in the
well,
portal? Uh,
and in college baseball, it doesn't matter how good you are. I mean, you're not guaranteed success at the next level.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not like the NBA where if you get drafted in those first 60 picks in those 2 rounds, like probably an 80% chance you could play in the NBA at some point in your career, or the NFL where if you get drafted, like you're probably good enough to play in the NFL if you make it through training camp. In baseball, like you could be drafted number 1 overall and then never make it. It's
Yeah,
crazy. I mean, it's such a hard game, and I think it's a wonderful thing that it allows players the opportunities to go find the right place for themselves, whether that be no matter what reason that is. I'm not someone that's going to go and ever demand someone that they, if I was a coach, tell me the reason why they're transferring, unless it's something to do that they don't like about my program that I would be coaching.
yeah.
I'd want to know what I need to do to make it better.
Yeah. Is there something that we could have done better to keep you so that way we can help the next guy or
True. But I don't think it would. I don't think it'd be wise on anyone to go and invalidate someone's personal reasons for anything. So,
No, I agree, and it's something I think people need to remember when these happen. Obviously, fans tend to be a little bit more reactive and emotional, and it's not personal. They need to know that, like, it's not, there's everyone's got their reasons, and that's something to take into consideration. You don't know why they've done that, and these are, like you just said, these are 16, 17, 18-year-old kids who made a really big decision in their life, and they've got an opportunity to make those changes as well, or and whatnot. So, and again, even if it's for the money, good for them.
yeah, I mean, look, there's been players that have transferred into Duke and they've made great decisions, and I also have had friends that were in my recruiting class that have transferred out and they've also made really great decisions and they're happy about it, and it worked out. So, um, obviously, it's challenging, and I hope that anytime someone commits to a school that it works out and that there's never any issues. But in life, like nothing ever goes perfectly, 100% of the time. So I'm glad that there's that avenue for players to get a mulligan and find the right fit for them.
Instead of having to sit out a year and whatever the old rules were and all that. So, because that seems a bit unfair too. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we talked about that because I don't think a lot of people really understand how the transfer portal works. Seems like this magical free agency thing, but there's some paperwork involved, and it makes it a little bit harder for fans and everyone and coaches to figure out what the situation could be like next year. But at the same time, I think it's a really exciting kind of thing because you can bring in some experienced guys.
Yeah, I mean it's really exciting because you get to go to a new school, but it's also emotional. I mean, you leave behind some friends that you've made, in your first couple of years of college, and that's tough. And you're putting behind a dream that you thought was gonna, be a reality when you were in high school. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be excited about, and there's a lot to be sad about. And my only wish for anyone that ever goes in the portal is that they find the right fit and that they have a wonderful experience.
100%. That's kind of what I was thinking. Is like, hopefully it's the best decision, and like, it works out perfectly. And like, one of the fun things I thought about the selection show when I was at your guys' thing is how excited Ben was when Penn got selected for their regional, and he was all excited, and I was like, that just shows. I mean, obviously it's a little bit different because he couldn't stay at Penn if he wanted to. He had to, if he wanted to use that other year of eligibility. But it's a really interesting thing where we're at in college sports, but people don't think enough about the personal process that players are going through. It's not, and that these are young adults. Like,
they're human beings, I mean, it's like changing jobs. If you had a boss you didn't like, or you didn't like your job and you wanted a change in lifestyle, or you wanted to be closer to home or anything, no matter what the reason is, I think anyone would, I think affording people the flexibility to do what they want is, one of the most important things. So
that's a good point. When next time a fan tells me that they're upset about a transfer decision, I'll be like, well, imagine if you had people that were complaining to you when you left your job to go somewhere else. Like, so that's a good point. But now we're going to get into the reflection period. And this is obviously a huge transition period for you. You've been playing baseball since
6 years old.
6 years old. Your career is over, but you're also got to be excited for the career you're starting next month. And some of that. So that's got to be like a bit of a roller coaster. Like, I'm sure some minutes you're feeling like really sad, and other minutes you're really excited to get started with your new career.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's going to be a ton that I miss, and there's also going to be a lot that I'm excited that I don't have to do again. Like, I'm sure when it's pouring out of practice and we're, playing catch and taking ground balls, when it's just absolutely pissing out, I probably won't miss that up that much, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, getting the opportunity to be a part of a team and make new friends and make new memories and compete, and being a part of a team where everyone's pulling from the same side of the string. I mean, that's priceless. I was telling Coach Pollard and my teammates that the experience and the relationships that I've made are just absolutely priceless. Like, if you said like, oh, would you have rather have done this? Would you have rather have done that? I can't tell you, because the people that you meet, you can't put a price tag on how much they mean to you in your lives. Even the fifth years that I have the opportunity to meet this year, the Ben Millers, my roommate Zach Morris, those guys, like, the friendships I have with them are so real and so valuable. Like, those are guys that are going to be at my wedding, lifelong friends, and I can't put a price tag on that. And just that, I guess that's what I'm going to miss. The avenue of making friends and relationships through baseball. It's introduced me to so many of my closest friends and so many of my, so many mentors that have had such an impact in my life. There's too many people to go and thank. I've been trying to go through my phone and just send as many thank yous as I can, just telling people how much they mean to me. But it's challenging. There's just so many. That doesn't mean like, hey, my next endeavor, like, plenty of opportunities, you'll make new friends and create new stories, and do all of that just through a different medium. And I'm excited about that too. I just found an apartment in New York City today, so that was huge.
Hey, congratulations. There we go.
Yeah, that's a process I really don't want to go through again.
I was like, they gonna take an arm or a leg?
Every single limb, actually. But I'm excited to go and move to the city. I got a lot of friends from home that are there, a lot of other college friends that graduated and have been working there for a year. And like I said, like, I have two true passions in my life. One of them is baseball. That chapter is closing. One of them is finance, something I studied in college, and a career that I'm going to go start right now. So I'm really excited to go learn and be the best analyst that I can and take a shot at adulthood.
Yeah, and a guy in his early to mid 20s in New York, I'm sure, can't find any way to have fun. New people,
now, right?
Yeah. That the excitement there. It's been a couple of days, and you're already finding new things to do. But I wanted to bring this up. You have had a pretty illustrious career. You're a Little League World Series legend. I got some good pictures in here. Hunted them down. You were the 2019 Connecticut Gatorade Player of the Year.
Yep.
State champion.
Twice.
Okay. I was having trouble tracking down. So, like, because when I was looking at your bio on Duke, they only had the FCIAC, and I was like, why wouldn't they have the state championship on there?
Yeah,
As a pitcher, you pitched a complete game shutout in your senior year, right?
I did, and I'm not afraid to brag about myself in high school now that my career's over because it's like I'm such a has-been. I don't feel like I'm bragging anymore. But I remember the semifinal game or the quarterfinal game I pitched the last 2 innings of. I closed out. The semifinal game I pitched a complete game shutout, 10 strikeouts, like I think 3 hits. I hit a home run that game. We won like 3-0. And then in the final, I think we won 3-0. I pitched a complete game shutout, like 10 strikeouts, 3 hits. So I miss pitching a lot. That was my favorite thing to ever do on a baseball field. The one regret I have about college baseball is not pursuing pitching more. I think I really could have done it. I don't think I would have been Chase Burns, but I think I would have had a role, and I think I would have had a lot of fun doing it. So, but no, those high school baseball moments were priceless. A lot of those kids that I played in Little League with, we went through high school and we won those 2 state championships together. We won our conference together, and I mean that was super special. I mean, I'm sitting here kind of talking about how much college baseball means to me, but I know high school baseball means a lot to a lot of people, and it means a lot to me too because those are kids I grew up with. Those are kids I went to grade school with. Those are my neighbors, right?
Yeah.
Kids that I spent most of my life to this point with. So, I mean, those moments were so precious, and I still text my high school coach. Actually, I was just staring at my phone right now. I think he just sent me a text. They're going to play in the state championship again. So I'm rooting good luck for them.
That's fantastic. Yeah, no, it was really cool kind of going through trying to get this slide set up to get all these accomplishments that you've done. And it's I mean, your career might be over, but look, I mean, how you got drafted by your favorite team.
Yeah, that was an incredible experience. I'll tell you the story behind that actually. So we were at baseball practice in high school, and I think we had just won the night before. We had just won the semifinal, the state semis. So we're going to the finals, and we have 2 practice days until we go to the the state championship. And I'd gotten a text earlier that day saying like, "Hey, just be on your phone like around this time and expect a phone call." I go, "Okay." So I go up to my coach and I'm like, "Do you mind if like I keep my phone in my pocket during practice? I know it's not like a great look, but I think there's a chance like I might get a phone call and get drafted." He goes, "Of course, like keep it in your pocket." So we're doing base running. We're at second base, and I start feeling my phone vibrate in my pocket, and I pick it up, and it's the Yankee scout that I played with on like the area code teams, and still talk to this day, and developed a good rapport and relationship with. And he called me to let me know that I'd been drafted by the Yankees in the 31st round, and my teammates came around and gave me a giant hug, and I think my dad went to a store and bought a Yankees hat, and we put it on and celebrated. I knew I was going to school the entire time, but
Right.
I mean, it was such an honor. And I mean, one of the biggest honors of my life, just being a Yankees fan, such a storied program. And, it was a really, really nice way to be, recognized for, I guess, what I had worked for in high school and had worked for in baseball up to that time.
Right. Like it's just crazy to me. Like not only were you drafted, because you could have been drafted by anybody, but it was your favorite team, and that's something you'll always have for the rest of your life. As when you have kids, when you have grandkids, hey, we're watching Yankees game. They drafted me.
Yep. Yep. I mean, I think I make jokes with like, I think I made a joke with Matt Mervis or with like one of my old hitting coaches that ended up making it to the big leagues who went undrafted. And I was like, "Hey man, just remember I've been drafted more times than you have."
I love it. And at Duke, you've got a pretty great resume. A 2021 champion, 22-time ACC champion, 2021, 2024. I mean, over the course, I've got another ticker on the bottom. Duke won 134 games while you were there. You won the ACC championship twice. You made the NCAA tournament 3 times, and you reached an NCAA super regional. That's phenomenal. You got to dogpile.
Anytime you get the chance to dogpile, I mean, those are memories you're going to have the rest of your life. I got to do it 3 times at Duke, and I mean, each one felt even sweeter every time. The thing I remember most about those, like I said, like just feeling the weight of your friends on top of you and, celebrating all at once. I was talking with Roman DeJochma. This is funny. One of my, favorite teammates here. He's a sophomore about to be a junior, but we were joking, like after the ACC championship, he goes, "Man, dog piles are like the greatest and the worst thing in the world because it's such like a feeling of ecstasy when you get to celebrate a championship. But then you get pissed because you're under about 800 pounds of people on top, and you're like, "Get off me! Get off me! Get off me!" And you get like you start to panic, you get claustrophobic, and we were joking about that. But um, man, what I would do to have one more of those in my life. I mean, each one of those is so priceless to me.
One of my favorite like little observations I noticed when you guys dogpiled is Santucci lingering around the edge to make sure, since he's coming back from injury, to make sure he doesn't hurt himself by
Yep.
being on the outside of towards the end of the back end of the dog pile. But you know, you are part of probably the most successful part of the Duke program since 1961. So since 1961, Duke's only made the NCAA tournament 6 times. You were on 3 of those teams. They'd never won the ACC tournament. You won the only 2 ACC tournaments in school history. Like that's kind of huge.
It's an absolute honor. I mean, and the cool thing is, I'm happy for the guys that are here right now that are going to get to say I was on the first team that went to Omaha in over 50, 60 years. So I'm excited for all the next first and all the other kids are going to have really special moments here and hopefully eclipse what I was able to accomplish and what everyone else was able to accomplish before me.
All right, I'll take this slide off. Stop making you uncomfortable with all giving you all the props here. I just wanted to make sure people understood what a career you've had, and such a special moment to finish it off with that hit in the ACC championship. We've talked a little bit over the last couple podcasts, and this one it gets mentioned briefly. But what's next for Chad Knight?
Well, I think I mentioned it earlier. I just find an apartment in New York, but I'm moving to New York City. Going to go work in investment banking for a little bit. Like I said, I have 2 passions in my life: baseball, which I came in with, and finance is one that I'm leaving with. So the wonderful thing about Duke and being a student athlete here is I got the opportunity to pursue the biggest passion of my life, baseball, but I was also introduced to a lot of other things that I got to learn about in the classroom with, really a bunch of, really, really smart classmates and also a bunch of really, really, well-regarded professors. And to have the opportunity to be able to learn and be at this university for 5 years has been such a privilege. And I'm excited for my next chapter in life. I really am. I know I'll always be connected to a game that'll always have a special part in my life. And who knows? I don't know where life's going to take me. I mean, I'm all in right now in the finance thing and going to see how far I can go there. But I mean, I'm not ruling out that I ever, come back and work in baseball. I know I want to have kids one day, and I know I'd love to have a son that plays baseball and hopefully be, half of, if I could be half the father that I am to my kid that my dad was to me in the role he played in baseball, I'd be ecstatic about that.
Yeah, I love how many times your parents seem to have come to travel to see you play, because it felt like all the time, which was great. But I just realized the thing I just forgot to put on those 2 slides. You got 2 degrees. That's pretty big deal too. Yeah,
that's what my mom's really happy about. So
yeah. 2 degrees from one of the best colleges in the country, an economics degree, which I am told is not easy. And after reading your sharp analysis, trying to translate to baseball, I don't think economics is in my future. But it's been a pleasure, Chad, and it's been a fantastic time, and it's only added to how fun this team has been to cover. So I really appreciate you coming on for the last 6 weeks or so. It's been an absolute pleasure. You're welcome anytime. But is there anything else you want to finish off this final episode with?
Well, first of all, thank you, Monty. That was really kind of you, and this has been a lot of fun for me as well, and something I'm definitely going to miss. And I hope you find someone else next year to keep this going. I mean, come season, I know there's a bunch of really, really fun personalities, on this team. So I'm sure there'll be someone that can, replace me. But I guess my last question for you is, you got one pick for a team to go to win the College World Series this year. Who are you taking?
That's a tough one. I think it might be Florida State.
Okay.
I just the pitching after they get past Dorsey and Arnold's tough. It's a tough one. I do like Texas A&M as well, what they've brought to the table. So it might be if I'm hedging bets, if I'm making a bet, I might bet on Texas A&M.
I think I'm going to take Texas A&M too. I know for Coach Jim Schlossnickel's brought a bunch of TCU teams there in the past, and this is such a talented, Aggie team that they make it past the regionals. I mean, they definitely have the depth, and definitely a team that I'll be keeping my eye on for sure.
Yeah, hopefully an ACC team can do it. Because right now there's only been one since 1958, I believe. It's UVA in 2015.
Oh,
Yeah, Miami has one, but they were part of the Big East.
gotcha.
So hopefully the ACC deserves more. We like to joke and say it just means less because the SEC's is just means more, but hopefully we can get an ACC team in there. I know we'll be rooting for other teams, but our it sounds like our minds are pretty similar on Texas A&M being one of the most consistent SEC teams in the country.
Well, if an ACC does do it, I hope it happens this year. Or I hope if an ACC team does win, I hope it's before Stanford and the expansion comes. So I think
That's a good point.
that'd be cool.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, this is it for the last episode with Chad Knight. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We will see you another time, maybe.
Thank you, Monty.